Good morning, and today we are kind of in the middle of our section on evil in the world. We talked about human bodily existence. We talked about last week, point C, are human beings a source of evil? And Guthrie debunked that. And it's not, I think Guthrie looks at it as human beings in themselves, like were we born evil, right? And then Guthrie talks about all of God's creation is good, right? So we did not move in that direction. So D will look at social influences, and we're going to hear from Guthrie from page 177 of his book. So social influences. A modern explanation of evil is that it comes from a bad family background or an unjust social system or political structure. There is obviously something right about this argument. Parents who batter children were often battered children themselves. A deprived or dysfunctional family can be the breeding ground for juvenile delinquents and criminals. Alcoholics often had an alcoholic parent or parents. A racist society nourishes and passes on racism from one generation to another. A patriarchal society can produce both women and men who believe that women are inferior. Some forms of capitalism, based on the premise that all have the same opportunity to work and provide for themselves and their families, in fact favor the rich, powerful, and advantaged at the expense of the poor, powerless, and disadvantaged. Bureaucratic socialism can be more concerned to enforce the rules and regulation of a well-meant social programs and to meet the real needs of the people they are supposed to serve. Important as it is to take the social context of evil into consideration, social explanations do not get to the heart of the problem of evil. They do not explain how or why social structures themselves become evil. Moreover, instead of solving the problem, blaming a familial or social system for evil can make it worse. We do not have to take responsibility for our own lives, nor will we be able to do so long as we can blame our parents or someone else for our faults and problems. We cannot encourage and help others to take responsibility for their own lives or to challenge a repressive social system so long as we allow them to continue blaming family background or the system for their faults and problems. On the other hand, those who believe that evil can be overcome by changing a particular social, economic, or political system forget that when the oppressed who have no power get enough power, then the oppressed usually become the oppressors, doing unto others what has been done to them. Evil does not end. It only changes managers and forms of expression. Could it be that evil does not reside in any one sex, class, party, group, or institution, but that it is a power at work in all of us, men and women, rich, poor, and middle class, conservatives and liberals, foreigners and our own people, black and white, and every color in between?
The rainbow.
The rainbow. All right, so Guthrie now tackles social influences, right? We're kind of going down this checklist as Guthrie almost operating like an investigator, trying to figure out where is the root, where is the cause. So he now looks at social influences, right, and says, yes, to look and say that there is no evil within social influences, we'd be lying to ourselves, most definitely. But Guthrie goes further and says, well, it's in all of them. It's in everything. It's in all of us, no matter who we are. And I love that he brings up, I got into a massive debate with someone about this whole concept, could the oppressed become the oppressor? And the individual said, no, they can't. I said, yes, they can.
We've seen it in history.
We've seen it in history.
Yeah.
It happens. If we believe that power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely, which I do, the oppressed can become the oppressor. It happens. It has happened. And so we can't say, well, my side is right and your side is wrong when all sides are corrupt. And this is what Guthrie is getting at. So we talked last week about humanity dealing with sin and the issue of evil, and now we look a little bit deeper into social influences, right? Systems, political systems, human systems. You can look at all of these different systems. And this is interesting, the movement of Latin American liberation theology, right? As Archbishop Romero fought so hard against.
He's going to be a saint now.
I saw that. I'm so happy.
Yeah.
It makes me I can't even imagine being a priest being gunned down while officiating communion at your friend's mother's funeral.
So symbolic. Yeah.
So symbolic. And
If they wanted
we always
to-
forget about the poor little altar boy who was killed with him. It's horrible. And the whole basis of Latin liberation theology is that it's not just people who are sinful, but it's the systems that we create, that we empower, that we give life to. They are also broken, because who creates these systems? We do. So we create these systems, and the systems are faulty, right? And so this is what we deal with. And, Romero, that was one of his big things, fighting against these broken systems. And so the social influences, we look at it, yes, they are broken, but Guthrie would say, but are they the cause? And Guthrie would say no, right? Because it's in there. It's permeated all of it, right? And that's kind of what we're doing. We're kind of going down a checklist. Is this the cause? Nope. Is this the cause? Nope. It doesn't mean that if it's not the cause, there are not symptoms. Right. There are symptoms. They're all over the place. And this is what we're kind of doing. We're kind of going down this checklist, trying to figure out what is the cause. So Guthrie now gets to E, and what is E?
Free will.
Free will. Is that the issue? Choice. But Guthrie says, but are we really free to choose good rather than evil? So let's hear what Guthrie has to say. Are we in fact really free to choose either good or evil? We may be free to choose to be moral or immoral, be law-abiding or lawless, go to church or stay home, do all kinds of good works or not. But the good God requires of us and wills us for more than just morality, piety, and good deeds. We are to love, trust, and obey God with glad thanksgiving in all we do. We are to love and help and let ourselves be loved and helped by other people, not just some of them when it serves our self-interest, but all of them, even when it seems against our self-interest. We find our own true humanity as we live in a right relationship with God and other people. Are we free to choose and to do that? Are we not, in fact, driven and controlled by all sorts of fears, anxieties, doubts, suspicions, hostilities, and rebellion that keep us from loving God and other people and letting ourselves be loved by them? Is it not the most fundamental problem of our lives how we, who we are not free, can become truly free? Free for God and our fellow human beings, and therefore to be the kind of people God created us to be. Do not both our own experiences in Scripture teach us that instead of being free to choose either to sin or not to sin, we are slaves of sin and need to be set free from it? And we talked a little bit about this in free will when we talked about semi-Pelagianism earlier, right? So it's not so much the choice as Guthrie would bring about. If we think about life as this broken, as a condition that we all struggle with, then the idea of choice becomes even harder to deal with. Because yes, as Guthrie said, you can choose to be more moral, more pious, but it goes deeper than that. It goes so much deeper than that, right? As he brings up the issue and he talks about, loving all people. serving all people. And this is where it gets difficult. And it should be difficult. It always makes me chuckle when people we talk theology and say, "Oh, it's so hard in the Old Testament, and Jesus makes it so much easier." And I said, well, he's a lot more forgiving, I think, in times, but I don't think it's any more easy. I said, this whole concept of loving your enemies and praying for your enemies, that's not that easy. That's very challenging. That's extremely challenging. I don't know anyone who that doesn't challenge.
All the Beatitudes where he's like, forget your behavior. It's before it even becomes behavior. It's in your heart and your mind.
Yeah, your heart, your thoughts. I mean,
your outward actions. That's just the.
Yeah, that's just when it's too late.
Right.
as it rolls out. Right.
Right.
Yeah. I don't think Christianity. I think it is easy in some aspects, but I think it is extremely difficult in other aspects. There's this part of the work, this movement towards, right, this becoming more Christ-like, right? You think of Thomas à Kempis, right, the imitation of Christ, right? We have the map, we have the blueprint. It's getting there that's difficult for us to do. But I like this section because it's not just our choices, it's what the choices are like sitting in. That it's not that easy. The evil that we choose does not come from our ability to choose, but what is in our hearts before we even do so, as Andy said. So it's, why do we make our choices?
I stole from Jesus.
Yeah, well, I think Jesus will forgive you because you pulled one of his concepts and we're paying attention to the Beatitudes. I think that's great.
He likes the help.
He likes, right, Jesus likes the help.
Yes,
Yes. And so think about even when we make our choices, strings are attached. Even if we even don't realize it. We think about this whole concept of unconditional love, right? I even for parents, there are limits.
Now you know.
Yeah, now I know. Yeah. I used to say it. Yes. I used to say it theologically before, but now I have real world experience.
At home.
Yeah.
Yes.
Cute one, but
He's cute, but man, he's tough. And I thank God for his doctor in Georgia. He's the only one that leveled with Sarah and I when he was like 1. And he said, the 2s are going to be bad, but the 3s are going to be really bad. He said, I know you never hear anything about the 3s, but they're so much worse than the 2s. And he is right. That man was a prophet. The 2s were not that bad, the 3s. I mean, because he's kind of almost there, so he has really been asserting himself bad. And so it's, and he's a strong little bugger. I mean, he's not this little waif. I mean, it's like a moving bag of cement. I mean, just, yeah. But yes, so when we think about free will and we think about unconditional love, our love has strings. It does. It does. We choose to love, but it has breaking points. For us to say, no, it doesn't, we're lying to ourselves. I mean, we need to look at what it is. And this is why, when people ask, how would you describe unconditional love? I always say, think about your dog and how your dog loves you. That, to me, is closer to unconditional love than anything that people do for each other.
I do have something that I've been thinking about.
Yes.
Because I've been studying about hell and evil this semester.
That's right.
Actually, this is the next book we're reading, which is
Milton?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I understand why people don't read this book unless they are assigned to read it, because this is. But so there is something about. I don't know how I'm going with this conversation, but
Yeah.
So Satan in Paradise Lost, and I know this is Milton's concept
Sure.
of Satan.
Sure.
This is not the Bible, but
Right.
so he has this interesting theory, and it is Satan is thrown out of heaven
Right.
because he wants to take over.
Yeah.
because he's rebellion, and so he wants to take revenge. That's the story of this thing. And so they get together with all the major devils, and there is this kind of a parliament in hell, deciding how we're going to do this. And their idea was that they were going to invade heaven. They're going to go back and take it over again. And so, the discussion goes on, and then one, which I think is the most evil one, says, no, because war will hurt us, and we don't want to be hurt. This is what we're going to do. I've heard of this new place that has been created. And I've heard that God has put in there the love of his heart. Let's go there and get them, and we will hurt him to the core. Yeah, I got goosebumps when I read it. I'm like, oh my God.
Is that straight from Milton? That's actually in Paradise Lost?
Yeah, it's...
Right.
Well, now you're going to make me want to read it.
I know.
Well, it's evil, it's, imagine, and then we'll get to enjoy paradise. We will seduce them, and we will make them believe that they can do anything they want. And we'll get him there. It's like, and that's it, that is evil. And now I go back and forth, to how Eve is seduced, and then she eats the apple, and then, according to Milton, Adam comes and says, what have you done? And she's like, well, I just ate the apple. And he's like, I don't want to live without you. Give me that apple, and we'll just do it together.
That's an interesting take.
Yeah.
So out of love,
He takes the
for
apple.
Eve, he takes it because she's going to go, and he doesn't want to stay by himself. This is not, it makes no sense, paradise, without her. So he takes the apple.
For man is not meant to be alone.
Yeah.
And then they live together holding hands. And that's the end of Paradise Lost when Milton says, because in paradise they have this council of angels, so they're in constant conversation with the angels. Angels are visiting them constantly, and they know everything. If they have any questions, angels tell them the story of humanity and everything. But they have a physical presence of God through the angels.
With Adam and Eve?
Yes, in paradise. But as soon as they leave paradise holding hands, they go on their own to live life by themselves. They don't have the physical presence anymore. Now they live, now the presence of God is providence. So they're not abandoned.
Right.
But
Right.
providence will accompany them, but they'll have to work really, really hard to feel that presence, because it is not physical anymore. And that's it.
Wow.
Yeah, I like that.
So, that's a new way of seeing evil to me. It's like, it's a very profound, but I think more powerful, And so I go back to when Jesus says, it is said, and he recites the 10 Commandments, it is says that do not kill and do not. And I say, if you are with me, you will not kill. If you are with me, you will not steal. And I think we on earth here, we focus so much on, I shouldn't steal, I shouldn't kill. And so we're doing the surface. We're doing this, we're worried about the symptoms, but we're not really doing the profound work that if we really work on sticking with Jesus, or, having that mystical relationship with Jesus, with God, then maybe we don't have to worry about those things, because they will not, they will not happen, because then we're working on the really core.
The core of the issue.
Of the issue, which is in the presence of Jesus.
Yeah.
You will not steal.
Right.
In the presence of Jesus, you will not. So stay here with me, and then you won't have to worry about those things, because here, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because that will affect, I think, the center of operations
Yeah.
where the choices are made. So if that center of operations, if the brain of the computer is changed and reprogrammed, then the computer will not choose.
Right.
You know, it will choose the right thing, not because it's such a good computer, but because there is work being done in the center of operations. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. It's like when Jesus says, you know, when he's asked, which is the greatest commandment? To love your God with all your heart, soul, mind, strength, and body, and to love your neighbor as yourself, the second. And you can hang all the law and the prophets on these two. You know, so if you do those two, if you're able to do these two, you don't have to worry about the other 10 commandments. The other commandments
But,
will fall into place.
To love your neighbor as yourself, you have to love yourself first.
Yes, as yourself.
So first is love God and yourself, which is the true self, which is the image of God in you.
Yeah,
And then from there,
it falls into place.
yeah.
It all falls into place, yeah. So if we can just do that.
That sounds good in theory.
Check.
It does, it does, right.
Theory.
It's something to work for. It's something to work for. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, then there's been so many, you know, interpretations and, you know, I watch a lot of movies and that, you know, Stephen King's book Needful Things deals with that issue too.
Sure.
With what?
Needful Things is the book. And the movie was actually decent. Max von Sydow plays this curio shop owner that mysteriously comes into this town. And he sets up a curio shop. And, you know, he's a very handsome, distinguished man. And he has all of these things. And the shop is called Needful Things. And so people come in there and they can't afford it because it's something very valuable. He says, well, I'll give it to you, but you have to do me a favor. And so, and the curio shop owner, we learned throughout the movie, is the devil. And so, but he ends up pitting the whole town against each other. So by the end of the movie, the town is in like total disarray. People are like literally killing each other. But the way he moves is very subtly. You know, and you know, he just does all these little, do this for me. Oh, you know, you don't really like this person. You know, but it's you know, and all of these things, you know, from Milton to Dante, you know, our understanding comes so much from, let's face it, pop culture. And Dante and Milton are pop culture. They're just old pop culture, but it is pop culture nonetheless. It's how humanity has grappled with this idea, this concept for a long time, because it's hard to grasp. But yeah, thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing that. Maybe one day when I retire, I'll grapple with. No, I still have to finish Andy's book. I have about a third of it left
Which book?
because
You
it's
ever
not
forgotten?
easy.
Which one?
The Master and the Margarita
The Master and Margaret.
again deals with the devil.
Whoa.
What?
For some reason, we have on our Kindle book. For some reason, I just started reading it yesterday.
It's a wild
the
ride.
first 3 or 4 pages
It is?
now.
Oh yeah.
But the man with the golden teeth and the platinum teeth, and who comes to see them in the park.
Right.
Yeah, in the park.
In the first 2 or 3 pages, you know, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a good
okay.
book.
3 pages.
Yeah.
So maybe this is what we got from you. Maybe you told us about it. The
I've
Master and
mentioned it
Margarita.
before,
He did.
definitely, because I mean
Yeah.
it's one of my favorite books of all time.
Wow.
Really?
Okay. Yeah.
Who
Yeah.
wrote it?
Bulgakov,
Yeah.
and it was like, I mean, he wrote it under Stalin. It didn't come out till like 20, 30 years after he died, because I mean, it works on a lot of levels.
Yeah.
But one level is, wow, this Soviet system really blows.
It's good he did not publish it then.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's. I mean, people called it the best, definitely Russian novel of the 20th century.
Wow.
Now we know where it came from, Ali.
Yeah, it's a good book.
I've got a video. It's like maybe 4 or 5 hour like mini series thing. If anybody ever wants to see that as well, that's really well done. It's in Russian with subtitles.
Like it's the movie of the movie.
Does it even have the cat?
Oh, the cat's awesome.
The cat's my favorite part of the
The
book.
cat is awesome. It's this cat who stands up.
The cat is my favorite part of the book.
I didn't get there. Like, it's on the cover of the
Behemoth.
book.
Yeah, the cat is.
Yeah, the cover
Yeah,
of the book.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. The cat's fantastic.
So this is the movie that you have 5 hours, or it's just the making of, or?
No, it's. I think it's like It's like a mini series, and I think it's about 5 hours if I remember right. So
I
yeah,
tried to read through it, and then if I see it.
yeah,
I'll do that
yeah.
first.
Let me know,
Okay.
because
Yeah.
I've got it, and it's really well done, really
Okay.
well done.
Well, we've got like 4 minutes left, and the section on F is gigantic, and the reading is gigantic. I can't. I couldn't
For
even
free
read.
will?
No, on fallen angels. Just what you were talking about.
Yeah.
So we're going to get to that. Well, let's talk. I say we have Sunday school on Palm Sunday. That's okay.
Yeah,
Easter's when we
Next week.
typically cancel a pastor's class, right?
Yeah.
right.
Yeah,
All right.
You gotta do communion Easter Sunday too.
Yeah.
So we're done for today then?
Yeah, for today we're done, and then next week we'll continue, and then Easter Sunday, no pastor's class, because we have lots and lots of things to do.
And when you do communion,